actually, we have 8. Because we have Tim Hunt and Mike Stewart from the same county.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know.
And
No, we've got
Tim Hunt is also from the same county.
we've got Windsor, Wyndham, Rutland, Orleans, Orange, Essex, Caledonia, Bennington, Addison is what I have. 9.
Who do you have from Wyndham?
I-4.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep.
You said Jeff's going to be joining from the other room, you said too, right?
Yeah, eventually I think he was on a little meeting, but he thought he was going to be done. He should be joining.
Okay. And here
Okay.
comes Lucas, Carol, Dustin, and Greg Rulio. They're all coming in.
All right, so we are being
So we're
live
good.
streamed, so
Yep.
we are good there. Okay.
Rulo, not Rulio.
Right.
Rulo.
Right, Rulo. I get it.
All right. And Cindy will announce
Greg
anybody
rules.
else. Okay.
Greg rules.
Yeah. All right. So Ruth, you're all set for now, and Cindy will announce anybody else that's in, right?
Yeah, I'm
We're
good.
Okay. Agenda went out in the packet, so I need a motion to accept it.
I'll Essex County make a motion.
I need a second.
Windsor County second it.
Windsor. Any additions, deletions, corrections? All the above? Hearing none? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed, nay? All righty. Secretary's report was also sent out in the package. Everybody should have received a copy of that. Are there any corrections on this?
Essex
we all
County
good?
make a motion.
Essex.
Lamoille will second.
Okay, last call for any corrections, additions, deletions, anything on the minutes. Are we all good with that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, nay? That's done. All right. Treasurer's report also in the packet. Stephen is not here tonight. He is traveling, but he did do his report. So everybody should have received a copy of that. I am going to just say a couple of highlights since he's not here to say highlights. I am not doing the report, just giving a couple highlights. He did the report, so I can call the motion. So membership was, our budget's 2.3, our actual was 2.6. So we're up about 360K, which is great compared to our budget versus actual. Our income's a little bit lower right now, and primarily due to grants. And again, those grants come in and they go out. So if they don't come in, they don't go out. So we're in really good shape. Overall expenses, the budget's 2 million. The trails expenses, excuse me, the actual was 1.2. And of that, 883K was in grooming. So that's really good. And a budget for grooming was 1.2, and we were sitting at 883. So right now, not used is about 400K, but I'm sure there's still some other payments that have to go out once he gets all those reports in. So everybody has a copy of those. I just pulled out a couple of highlights myself. Those are the things I look for. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report from Stephen?
Well, we got to make a motion, so I'll make a motion.
Yep, I was just asking if there's any questions first, so we can have a clean motion if there is anything. We good? You're gonna make the motion though, John?
Yeah.
Windsor County second it.
Last call for any questions or comments on the treasurer's report. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're done with that whole first grouping. All right, Cindy, you're up in regards to Deerfield Valley's payment.
Okay, Ruth, Mike Burns is coming in. Yeah, so we billed the club, we sent them a letter, and they have paid half. They just paid it the other day, so we just got it and in the mail, and they're planning on paying the other half in the fall when they get their startup payment, so they'll be paid in full. But the letter did state that they had until December 31st of 2028, but their plan is to pay, and that's for the really for the attorney fees. for that project down south. So, yeah,
Excellent.
they're good to go.
Any questions for
Thank
Cindy
you.
on that?
Yeah, I have one question, Cindy, regarding I was looking through the board packet earlier and I see a single page in there for the vast club reimbursement policy for infractions, and it says executive summary. Is that something that we've always had, or is this something that we're proposing, or do you know?
This will be covered later on, Doug, under new
Oh, okay.
business.
All right.
That's not, Mark Reeve is gonna cover that one,
Okay, all right. Thanks.
and it's new.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, I think I got all those questions. Boom, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so any questions for Cindy on Deerfield Valley? So it looks like we're almost gonna be wrapping that up before hopefully next season starts, that'd be great. At least that's the plan, all right. GPS, so we had listed the clubs there. First we're gonna start with Matt. Where's Matt? I saw him there. Unmute, there he goes. Just in regards to the data report request, just give everybody an update of what you've done there.
Yes, we sent out an email just requesting follow-up from the 3 folks we tested with to see what they could build for us, sort of, I guess, on the back end. So what we're going to see and how we can interact with their data and how the clubs would interact with their data. So we sent some fairly specific parameters. Some of those may change, once we decide to go with a company, we don't know down the road, but basically some basic parameters we wanted. I've heard back from all 3 of them.
Okay.
2 of them in decent detail. One of them said he had his team reviewing it and they would get back to us by May 1st.
May 1st was the
Earlier
deadline,
than May
correct?
1st. So, yes.
That's for
So,
everybody. So, okay,
yeah.
excellent.
So it seems like they can all do what we want. It's just a matter of how we get there with some of them, and they had follow-up questions on it, and I've been going back and forth with them on some of it. So it was a good response anyway. So
Appreciate you doing that. That's good. Getting that information from all of them, and appreciate them responding to you. That's also good because we want to make sure they want our business, right? All right. And Cindy, just on the scoring survey, you just finalized and sent that out just for the pilot clubs only.
I did, and hang on, I'm letting Mike Keller in right now. I did, and they have a deadline of May 1st, and so far, I've gotten one from one club, and once they all come in, I'll be compiling all the data and sending the responses out. But it was just a quick survey for the end of like what made them happy, what didn't they like, how did they find the infrastructure, did they feel it was helpful, just we don't want to continue to inundate them with questions, but it was a basic like closeout of the program. So like I said,
And it was
Dustin,
scoring. It was
yeah,
scoring.
yeah, it's scoring. And
different.
Dustin was the one that replied. So I'm going to send out a reminder this week. Probably tomorrow, hey, I sent this, please get it in.
Excellent. All right, that's good. That, and the other stuff was more or less, feedback, feelings about things. This is just a cut and dry scoring system that Cindy put together. So it'd be just not interpretation of the
Right.
data.
It's like
So,
a 1 through 10, and they can add notes if they want to. There is a
Right.
field for notes, but primarily we wanted to just capture, it's like when you go to the doctor and he says, how much pain are you in? 1 through 10. Mike Pistachio knows that.
I saw
Being, as a first responder. Yeah. Sorry, I know you're in retirement now, Mike, but
So that's due back to Cindy by May 1st for the other 5 pilot clubs that have not yet responded. So,
yeah.
All right, grooming logs, an analysis reminder. So Matt did send out a report last week. So first, kudos to 2 counties that got all the logs in and their analysis done. So Bennington County and Essex County. So good job for them. And then we have a total of 4 counties that got all their grooming logs in. And so to that list, Bennington and Essex, we also add in Orleans and Caledonia. So that was really good. to see. But we do have 28 clubs total that need to complete items by this Thursday, April 30th. And 11 of those 28 clubs need logs and analysis. So they do have a deadline of Thursday, so they're not late. But just please remind them, just at a high level, Addison has 1 club. Caledonia has 4 clubs for analysis. Chittenden has 1. Franklin has 2. Lamoille has 2. Orange has 4. Orleans has 2. Rutland has 3. Washington has 2. Wyndham has 2. And Windsor gets the prize with 5, though they have 17 clubs. So they have a little bit more.
Patty, can we get
There you are.
another Washington, please?
I caught that too, Dustin.
I don't even hear myself. Hey, Greg told me to continue just talking the way I talk. There it
Right,
is.
washing machine, Washington County.
Well,
Get it?
I don't even think about it. But anyway, so if we can wrap that up, last thing we want is people coming before the board to discuss club standing. So if the directors could please follow up those clubs on those items and by Thursday. So Thursday is the deadline. Okay. Mike Stewart's up next, Rutland County, and by the way, Best is on that list of missing everything. And East is in good shape though. They've done both, so that's good news. So you got a home run with 1, and Best is missing stuff again due Thursday. So I don't know if you have any other updates.
I think we should be good, Patty. I actually got a hold of Andrew last week and I CC'd Matt after he sent that out and told him that we had to have everything in by the 30th. And he responded back very quickly and said that he was working on it that week. I'm surprised he doesn't have it in yet, but I will get back to him on that. And East, I knew Ed was having some problems with the computer doing the groomer log sheet, so I actually had him contact my trails coordinator for Shrewsbury today, and he called me back in about an hour and said he's got everything done. So
Yeah.
that
East
works.
is good. East is not on the list.
And
Best is missing stuff.
And I am pleased to say that I have actually gathered up a couple more people, 2 more people that are going to take over the East Club. So Ed will be now Trails Coordinator as of next year, and we're planning on meeting. We tried to set up a meeting for Friday morning, but one of the people is busy, so we'll do something beginning of next week to get them all set up and make sure the construction course is done and all that stuff if they want grants and all that. And let's put it this way: you guys really want every club to do the construction seminar, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, even if they're not doing a project.
Well, I would say in general, the last 3 years, we have had a weather event that prompted clubs who had no plans of doing projects to have to do projects.
Yeah.
So it includes emergency funding. So yes, every club should take it without being put in that position for the unexpected. May not be in their plans, but plan for the unexpected. I would encourage every club to take the construction training.
Yep, point well taken.
All right, so you're going to follow up with Best.
Yes, I am.
Okay, and it's the analysis in weeks 11 through 16 on their logs.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Okay. Cindy, TMA sales? It's a wrap, right?
Yeah, it's a wrap. We had 14 additional ones in the last 35 days, and I think that was just transfers. So
Overall, great season.
So we're
and
at 21,714, revenue of 3.369 million total. That includes the club dues. That's total.
Okay, yeah. And according to the report, the actual year to date, with just the part that goes into the budget, was 2,673,190. So
Correct, because that's May
Yeah.
30 or March 31st. Yeah.
oh, it's true. Yes. Okay. Any questions for Cindy? Great season, everybody. Thank you very, very much. And hopefully all those people that bought TMAs this year will be excited for next year and buy early birds again. All right, we're under new business. We're just moving along here. Act 181, Cindy.
Yeah, I think I would like to roll both the first one and the second one kind of in
Okay.
together. So it's a very busy legislative session. It is, there's a lot happening. We have seen a property tax increase over the past 5 years of 41% for Vermont landowners and second homes. And there, once, when I talked to you, I actually started talking to you about this back in 2022 with Act 59 and warning that this legislature they basically, without being partisan, the supermajority had gone rogue. And our fears of what that could do to private landowners. And then in 2024, and so that was with Act 59, which was a housing conservation bill. And then in 2024, they introduced H637, which was voted in as Act 181. And I'm sure all of you are aware now of Act 181 if you're on Facebook. You've seen the page. I'm a member of the page, so I read a lot about it. And it was passed, and the governor vetoed it, but they had a super majority at the time, and they overrode his veto. And so what's happening right now is there's a huge conversation about what actually happens in the State House. And it was exactly like, I don't want to be like, I was the soothsayer, but I remember coming to you guys and going like, this stuff's going to hit the fan once landowners find out about this stuff. And I don't know that we missed the boat of not warning them because we don't have that many landowners. We don't, we're politically nonpartisan, but people have come out of the woodwork from all political sides in the state of Vermont. And it's really great. I think my hope is that it's going to bring us back to the middle, which we've gotten away from, in the past 10 years, and bring us back to a point where we're all working together. So Act 181 was a tool to change Act 250, which is a big land regulation law. And they were looking at reducing it in town centers for growth. And they have these different tiers, 1, 2, and 3. And then when they got to 3, that was more rural land. And then they were putting in a road rule, which said if you were going to have to go under Act 250, if you had a road, driveway, anything that was more than 800 feet. And it got out to the public, which is a great thing. And there's a lot of people that are on board. There's a lot of towns that have written letters. We wrote a letter. And so I think what it's going to come down to, they've now decided to pull the road rule and Act Tier 3 out of Act 181. There's people that are calling for a full repeal, which we are one, because they really need to look at all the downtown centers and what downtowns can handle. And I mean, there's a lot of the last few years, the legislature has been moving in a way where they're setting up laws without finding out if the agencies can support what they do. And so they are listening to conservation organizations and other people, and then making up rules, but not really knowing the consequences. And then the agencies are coming in and saying, like, we don't have enough time to do this. Like, we don't have enough to support what you're looking at, or we have the experts. Why aren't you asking us? So there's just a lot going on in the State House right now. And I think it's going to come down to the election. And that's what we're going to focus on is I wrote a letter a couple of weeks ago. It's in the newest magazine about how to affect your own local election. We'll be sending out like who voted for what and when, just for information, because we are nonpartisan, but just for information. And literally, it's not one party or the other that's all in an uproar here. It's across the board rural Vermonters, people that own rural land, not even just Vermonters, but people that own rural land. So there's a lot going on. And then the other thing, besides, I see you got your hand up, Greg, and I'll get right back to you. But I just want to say the other thing is that, and I think this is going to follow down the pipeline, healthcare, property taxes, and education. And these are huge things in the state of Vermont. And I can see that people are already starting to talk about that as being an issue. Frank is working tirelessly in the State House with Mike Covey and some others. And so I definitely, I'm hoping that we're seeing finally that shift of change.
Greg, you have a question for Cindy or comment?
I do. You can hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, Cindy, I wanted to let you know that I was down at the State House Friday working with Mike Covey, VTC, on some club business, my own club. And I had the opportunity to meet and speak with Lieutenant Governor John Rogers. And I asked him specifically, because he got into the subject of snowmobile clubs and there's a trail on his property, whatnot. And I asked him specifically, what's going on with 181? He said, well, right now we're in a hearing and we're working on tier 3. We're repealing tier 3 and rewriting that. And I said, wait a minute, can you clarify that, please? You mean you're repealing 181? He said, no, just tier 3. And I said to him, I said, but that's not what people want. They want Act 181 repealed. And he stood his ground and stated there's nothing wrong with tier 1 and tier 2. So I hesitated in a minute. I said, well, okay, we'll see. And then I said, you know, what really needs to happen is Act 181 needs to be repealed and Act 250 as well and rewrite the whole thing. He hesitated for, I don't know, 5-10 seconds. It seemed like an eternity. And he said, well, I don't think that's going to happen. And I said, well, it affects every landowner and every business in this state. And at this point, I was representing my company because I had on my company logo shirt. And I said, Act 250 affects my business every single day to the point where we will not be starting a new project because the process is just too long, too cumbersome, and too expensive, as in a development. So I did have a good chance to talk to him. I expressed my opinion and from the Snowmobile Club point of view on 181, but that's the direction they're going. So I don't think they're listening. And I don't know when this is going to be over, if it ever is, but clearly they're not going to repeal 181 in my view. They're going to try and rework it. And I don't think that's going to be enough for our landowners.
I agree, Greg. They are repealing now as of Friday, tier 3 of the road rule officially. I agree about tier 1 and tier 2, and they're taking a look at it. There might be a possible repeal for tier 2. There's still some time in this. I mean, unfortunately, the lieutenant governor and the governor don't have a lot to say. It's those local legislators that we all vote for that are in there fighting for this and that have voted for it. So I agree with your frustration, but we are a lot further than we were before. There's now 12,000 people on that 181 Facebook page. So they're definitely hearing it and they're feeling the crunch. I'm following it. I agree. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to appeal the whole thing now, but it's really opened up a can of worms with Act 59 from 2022 and 2023 and what they were talking about conservation. And I think we're headed in the right direction, but it's not perfect yet. And John Rogers actually has a town meeting tonight that's going to be you can join. I don't know if it's on Zoom or what, but it's at 7 tonight. I was going to try to jump on and watch him, but unfortunately the lieutenant governor and the governor don't have a lot of say, and especially the lieutenant governor. He does as a landowner, but as far as voting, it's down to the governor to be able to veto. I think where we're going to be able to make permanent changes for the whole thing is going to be in the election. And we just need to focus on the nonpartisan, but who voted for what and why. There's a lot of backpedaling going on right now.
And I think we
Yeah.
talked about, Cindy, so one thing for a politician to talk the talk, how did they actually vote?
That's
And
right.
that's
They can
really-
tell you one
yeah.
thing, but it's how they vote. And we're going
Right.
to be putting that out there. This is how they voted. Even in the Senate, it moved through the Senate. The Senate the Natural Resources Committee in the Senate tried to slow it down. And that's where S325 came from. It was actually an amendment to Act 181 to slow down the process that was moving. And all of one party in the Senate voted that amendment down to keep it right on track where it's going. So now what's going to happen is it's in House Environment. They're going to do what they need to do, which is get rid of tier 3 in the road rule at least, and maybe make some changes in 1 and 2, the tiers. And then it's got to be voted on the House floor. So there'll be arguments on the House floor about whether to keep those 325 and what's recommended or make changes. And then it's going to actually have to go back to the Senate because the House has changed it. And it's going to have to be voted. It's going to have to go to the Natural Resources Committee in the Senate, and then on the Senate floor again, and then Conference Committee, which is a group of people made up from both committees. I know it's a lot. I'm giving you like do you ever watch Zoom with a bill, follow the bill? So it's a lot to understand, but we're in a much better place than we have been in the last few years. And there's a lot of people, very educated people. There was a great Vermont Public today on Vermont Edition at noon. If you haven't heard it, you should listen to it. It's a podcast. And it was it was live on Vermont Public Radio, but it will be a podcast, and it came out at noon today, interviewing some people about this. There's a lot of info, but I understand your concerns, Greg. Sorry to go on so long, Patty.
No,
Thank you.
I think it's good to educate everybody in case they're asked by anybody. So, okay. Cindy's also the budget, Cindy, just at a high level.
Yeah, sure. So I haven't started the budget itself yet. I've been working with staff to help me develop line items that they feel like they're going to need for next year for certain projects. So we make sure that it's in there so it doesn't end up just like in a miscellaneous kind of category. So doing that, I'm also looking at end of the year projections, and I'll have that for you in May when we have our retreat. So the board can talk about, we will end up in the black. Just so you know, Patty read out that we spent like 800 and something in grooming. It's actually going to end up about 1.4 million. We had budgeted 1.2. So it will be higher than we had budgeted, but because the season was so good, we still have some extra that the board will need to talk about. So the finance committee has been meeting about this, and yeah, more to come in May, but that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
The conversations are starting.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is Matt. And Matt's going to talk about the CPI increase, which was discussed and a motion was made at the Trails Committee. And in Matt's report, he actually has it on the front page, what he's proposing. Correct, Matt? I read your report. You're on mute. Matt, you're on mute.
Sorry, thought I unmuted. No? Yeah, it's in the report, but it's the Trails Committee reviewed it. They made a motion to the board that they were agreeable to it. So what it does is it keeps the maximum amount for an equipment grant kind of in line with the consumer price index, and it increased about 2.6% in the past year. So basically just bumps those numbers up. It doesn't mean anyone's gonna get any more for a grant necessarily, but honestly, with the cost of grooming equipment, these maximum amounts aren't a huge chunk of the overall cost, but it does allow clubs a little bit more, and you can see the difference in my report from 45,533 to 46,716, 68,106, bumped up to 69,877, or 90,807 to 93,168.
That's
So I don't know if
based
there's any-
on mileage.
Yes, yep, on their quotas. So I don't know if there's any questions on it.
Mike Stewart has his hand up. Mike, is it about the the CPI stuff?
It's just about the equipment grant, in-aid program. Matt, you can take our name off that. We're gonna stick with our unit for another year.
Okay,
Yeah,
It's in
we're
the
good.
report.
We're gonna come at you for a construction loan though, or a construction grant.
Loan?
More bridges.
Okay. So Matt, so the Trails Committee has already made a motion and approved this to come to the board. So we are looking for a motion from the board to go with the proposed 2.6 as Matt outlined to be implemented.
Lamoille will make that motion.
Thank you, Lamoille.
Windsor County, a second.
Lamoille and Windsor. Any other questions regarding that? That's minor increases. When you look at the numbers. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, nay? Okay, that motion carries. There you go, Matt. So you can update the policy. All right, next up is Mark Reeves. And Doug, this is what you were asking about, which was also in the board packet regarding club reimbursement policy for infractions. And this is due to this year's activity and not really having a process documented. So Mark, want to take it from here?
Yeah, first, Ruth, I'm gonna let Julianne Sherman in. I noticed she popped into the waiting room. So if you want to put her down, I don't know if she was in and then left. But... All right, so as we were dealing with the Deerfield Valley stuff, we did realize that though we do have some precedent and other things that allowed VAS to be reimbursed for certain things that clubs or individuals acting on behalf of clubs may do. We didn't have it really documented well. So in your packet, I sent the policy that the policy committee and Cindy and Patty worked on. Hopefully you had a chance to read it. I can share my screen and go through it if you like. Let me know your pleasure.
Anybody want to see it on the screen, or do y'all have access to it? You can pull it up anyway then. Does he need to read it, or can we just scroll through it?
Yeah, we can just scroll through it. I was the pleasure of the board. As you can see, it sets out a clear purpose, what the scope is, our policy statement, and then as you know, we use language that doesn't limit VAST, but gives examples. When we go infractions subject to reimbursement, we say includes but not limited to. That gives the board some leeway on what they decide should be subject to reimbursement. It also sets clearly to clubs that, look, if something like this happens, here's what's going to happen to you. We list examples again of what recoverable costs are.
And those are costs that may be recovered, not necessarily. The board may vote differently, but they may be. Yes. Okay, go ahead. I see justice. So I'm going to let Mark finish going through it first, please.
Okay. And yeah. So again, the recoverable costs, then we lay out a process. I think that's important so that people know what to expect. And finally, appeals and enforcement. you know, we try to really give people a routine, easy to follow, step by step, what's going to happen or what could happen if infractions are again, this is a specific situation, but there could be any number of types of infractions that cause vast financial harm, reputational harm. We want to make sure that all VAST members aren't punished for the actions of individuals or clubs. Again, going through, we talk about what VAST can consider. We do reference for enforcement, the failure to comply may result in the loss of a club's designation as a club in good standing, and actually reference the section and paragraph of the policy manual. Talk about considerations and the discretion that the board may have. And I see we have 3 people who have their hands
Yeah.
up.
So just before we
Dustin
go,
has his up
Yep.
twice.
wait, Doug is, no, yeah, Doug, Dustin, and then Jen. So this is just to have something documented, because there was questions that came from members of the board after the situation saying, you know, we really should have something a little bit more clearly defined. And so that's what Mark and the committee went and did. So this actually came out of the request of board members to do this. And I think it's a good idea. And it doesn't recreate certain sections. It refers back to, we already have an appeals process as an example. So why put it in here? You follow the same appeals process. All right, Doug, you're up first.
I was just wondering, Mark, so this is a totally new, a new policy thing, and it's not something replacing anything else or anything like that?
It was mentioned, it was referenced in a couple of spots, but sort of minorly. And I think the biggest place is in the Trails Policy Manual where there was a mention of recoupment. We wanted to get it where it was easily referenced and upfront, and a club who may be subject to this and says, well, what authority do you have? We have something that we can point to. We have a guiding document for the board letting you know how you can enforce, what you should consider, and that you have some discretion, because we all know none of these situations are exactly alike. And there could be reasons that you want to waive reimbursement, or like this last one, you reduce the possible reimbursement. But we wanted to give the board the discretion and the ability to do so.
That looks great. You guys did a great job. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think. Okay, Dustin, then Jen, and then John. So, all right, Dustin, you're first.
Okay, so the only thing I really saw is in terms of the process where it says determination that VAST will provide a written decision to the club within 15 days. In that process, is there enough time to bring it to the board at a regular board meeting, or is that something that we will have to have a special board meeting because we're going to give them a decision within 15 days?
So that sends out, yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I was just
Just
going
on
to
the
say, we understood that, but we also didn't want to leave clubs hanging out there. So they'll receive a written notice. They have 30 days to provide a response. Then VAST will provide the written decision. So we're hoping that will allow it to be done in conjunction with a board meeting, and then be able to get the notice out within 15 days. And then there's also the appeals process. So if they get this and they want to appeal, they appeal, and then it goes through that. So they'll have the 15 days, then they can, they'll get it within 15 days, and they have another 30 days to appeal. So again, we don't necessarily want this going on for an entire year. And if a club decides to appeal when they receive the determination, well, that could make it go on longer. So I think 15 days will be sufficient. And I know we talked about that, Patty, didn't we? I mean, we
Yeah,
realize that it could be tight, but I think 15 days is reasonable. John,
Okay.
Jen?
I'm sorry, Jen's next and then John.
Hi. So most of these infractions are pretty self-explanatory, but I do have questions on what sort of fines or fees would be subject for reimbursement for failure to meet reporting or administrative requirements or non-compliance with grooming safety and operational standards. Because I'm assuming that we're only going to ask for reimbursement if VAST has to pay something, that this is not
Correct.
just going to be a punishment, a fine because the club doesn't do something.
Yes, if you look in purpose, it says to recover costs.
Right. I just don't understand what cost would have to be recovered for those two items. Failure for reporting and administrative requirements to VAST or like to the state, or I would just like a little more explanation on those.
Well, again, these are we can certainly take that out, but again, we're trying to cover as many situations as possible. It can be difficult in time, and I understand what you're saying. And frankly, you're right. I can't think of one where if someone misses a reporting deadline, they would be subject for reimbursement. What happens is they don't get their grants, as we've seen in the past. So, if someone wants to approve it without that on there, I would ask any of the committee members who are on to weigh in whether they think that's reasonable. Cindy, Patty, if you want to think that's
I have
reasonable
no
to
problem
take
with the
that one.
failure to meet that one. The insurance one I would leave in because if you
Right.
should be insuring your equipment out there. And if you don't have insurance and something happens and then VAST has to, a lawsuit happens and stuff, and VAST
Yeah.
has to pay out, then we could come back. But that's
Right.
a failure to meet reporting and administration. I would agree with. I don't know who else, Cindy or
I
I don't know who
agree.
else.
I think you could take that one out because we're not really fining them for not doing their stuff. We're actually going to require them to, that would put them into not good standing. So I don't
Right.
know that we need to.
No,
We
I
can take
agree.
that out.
Yep, that was a good catch there, Jen.
What about the non-compliance with grooming safety or operational standards?
Well, if that results in someone getting injured,
Okay.
lawsuit, for something that I think that needs to stay in there.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
John.
Oh, John. Yep, John's next. And then Mike Stewart after that, Mark.
Yeah, so I agree with Dustin. I think if we did the 45 day and left everything as is, I love this. It looks great. And I would make a motion to accept it as is with adding in the 45 days.
So
VAST will provide okay.
I'm sorry. So changing determination, VAST will provide written decision within 45 days.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Is there anyone else who on the committee, or Cindy, do you have an issue with that?
No, I think that's a great idea. I think you have to be really careful with putting time limits on things, especially with volunteers. So I think, looking at this reconsideration, 45 days is a good idea.
Okay.
Mike Stewart, then Greg.
Okay, I just want to
Well,
say,
wait, Patty, you have a motion?
I do have a motion.
You need
I
a second, and then you can
we'll
open up for discussion.
yes, that's right.
Windsor
So-
County will second the motion.
So we'll keep the Essex and then Windsor. You're right. Thank you, Cindy. We'll
Yep.
continue with the conversation, then we'll go. Oh, somebody said calendar days. Notes in the comments on the Zoom. 45 calendar days.
I'll
That's
defer to the person who made the motion. John, do you want calendar days?
Yeah, I would think calendar, I guess.
Yeah.
Better than business days.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think 15 was too short, so.
Okay.
And Doug, you're all right with that since you seconded the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Mike?
Okay, I just want to reiterate, the last couple times we've actually had to do anything like this, the calendar days, the time, that's like forever. Because Vast had to act real fast when stuff like this happens. So I think I think it's a great idea. I'm going to vote for this with amendments as needed, but every club needs to know that down the road, if there's going to be a cost to Vast, it's going to cost them too. But a lot of times,
Potentially.
when this stuff happens, Vast has to act very quickly to save face, if you will. So it may not be 45 days before Vast makes a decision and does something, and everybody should know that.
Well, Mike, I think, just to clarify, the determination happens after Vast had to do something. So if Vast had to act quickly like it did with the Deerfield Valley situation to make a decision to pay, that's separate from this. This is after the fact. We went through it. We took care of what we had to do legally or otherwise, the requirements. And now we're saying, okay, what do we do? This is the process for going through the reimbursement process with a club saying, look, we had to do this, and now we're coming back to you to get reimbursement for what we had to pay out. So this is after that. This doesn't impact Vast's ability to act quickly, reacting to a situation.
I understand that completely, but every club in every county has to know that they're going to be on the hook with some of this stuff, which I think is a great idea.
Potentially.
Potentially. That there's in here, there is discretion built in for the board to listen to clubs, get an understanding of what happened, look at club's financial situation, look what happened, and there is discretion built here in for the board on this, for you guys to use your decision-making abilities and authority to determine what's fair.
Well said. Greg? And then Mike.
Mark, I just wanted to reiterate, make sure that you checked. You mentioned that there was 2 or 3 other places in other policies where it touched on things like this, that they're not conflicting. You need to make sure that this holds weight and there's no other conflicting policies that would throw us in a tailspin.
We did. And as soon as I say that, something will come up. But we did look through, like I said, the biggest, it wasn't in conflict. This just takes it out and sets it aside. Here's what can happen. It does not create a conflict.
Okay.
And I would just like to add too, this doesn't happen that often, knock on wood, I mean, literally like twice before I came to Vast and now more recently once. So it's not like it's a ongoing thing. It's just a protection.
Right.
Mike Burns, you're on mute. There you go.
I just had a little bit different question, and I agree it doesn't happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but unfortunately it might. How do we, and this is kind of a general question on these policies and stuff. Sometimes talking to my guys, it doesn't seem like they get disseminated very well. And this could be very impactful. I mean, I don't know how we disseminate them better to leadership and broad. I mean, I don't know if it's something we do at the annual meeting, if we could do there, something that we changes to policies or additional policies. It's not a bylaw, so it doesn't get voted on, but how do we?
But this, I guess, Mike, I would sort of throw it back in your court. We're here with the 14 county representatives who go back to their county meetings where they can say, hey, clubs, here's a new policy that was approved at the last Vast meeting. So I think that some of that is on, and I'm not saying you, Mike, but it's on you guys, to disseminate and discuss with your clubs and let them know.
I think the county directors are the bridge to the clubs in regards to communication from VAST. So it definitely should be covered at a county meeting, or you can send it out via email to your county clubs. If they have questions, you can put them together and then come back to Mark or the committee with questions on that after the fact. I'm sure Mark would be happy to answer them. Yes?
Well, happy?
Okay. Are there any
So-
other? Okay.
I was gonna say, so right now we have a motion to, and Patty, this is your job. I shouldn't be
Yes.
stepping on your toes like this.
That's all right. I stepped on yours
Sorry.
a little bit. So it's a motion with one edit to remove. Where are you? Failure to meet.
Yep.
And to add, to change 15 to 45.
This calendar days, yes.
Yep, and add the word calendar. Correct. That's the motion. On the floor, we have a second on that as well. There's any other last questions about it? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Are there any abstentions? Only because it's a, done. Okay, motion carries. So you can stop sharing there so I can see everybody again. That'd be great. Cindy and Mark, you're up next again. So there you go. Thank you, Mark and the bylaws and policy committee for putting that together. Like I said,
Okay.
hopefully we'll never have to split out, but it gives guidance versus saying, well, historically we have done, this actually gives a layout. So I think that's good.
Yes,
All right.
good. Thank you very much.
All right, so Saturday, May 16th. Yeah, sorry. I'm just coming off of vacation, so my mind is not on anything related to snow. So Saturday, May 16th, Waterbury Fire Department annual get-together meeting to look at what VAS's long-range focus is. Cindy, do you have the agenda up or available yet? I know
Nope.
it's informal, so.
Yeah, so basically it's 9 to 5. We're hoping to get out of there at 4, just so you know. And the committee has been talking about, we'll have some breakfast items and coffee and juice and stuff in the morning. The Trails Committee has been breaking out in subcommittees and working on different projects. So part of it is going to be hearing from the different subcommittees. What we're trying to do is give you an idea of what's already been working on, because we are going to break up at the end before the board meeting, like we did last year, into little pods to discuss things. And so we want to make sure that, you guys know what we've addressed from last year already within staff or committees. And so that will be presented to you in the beginning of the meeting, and then we'll have some breakout session, and then we're going to have a board meeting. In a nutshell, is basically how it's going to go. And then pizza and salad from Zachary's. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah.
And I'm bringing dessert.
Yes. Yeah. Cannolis from Patty.
So we'll have the summit agenda, and then we do have the board meeting that day. And then Julianne will need a motion at some point during that board meeting to go into executive session. So just you can figure out who on the committee, even if it's yourself, Julianne, to take care of that, and then we'll come back in and wrap up the day. So we really have 3 meetings that day, if you will. So a lot to do. So it should be a good one. So, and the Trails
Yes.
Committee's got a big part of that. So with the work that they've done with those subcommittees, and I know they've been working really hard on that stuff. So
Yeah, I really need to thank those, because it's important for us to get updates on what we've worked on so that we can decide whether we want to continue or expand efforts on those or focus somewhere else. So I look forward to it. I want to make sure that people get value out of this every year. I don't want anyone sitting there rolling their eyes saying, oh, I gotta do this again. I want people to say, look, this is a good chance for us to talk snowmobiling, to talk the future of our system, to talk the future of our organization and how we can make it better. So I look forward to seeing you all there. And yeah.
And for those who have
that's-
not responded to Tina yet in the office, please do so. Even if you're unable to attend, just let her know so she's not wondering if you're responding or not. If you could just RSVP whether you're going to attend or not attend.
I don't think I responded, but I think it was assumed I was showing up. So
I didn't see your
You
name on
have
the list.
not responded, Mark, by the way.
all right, I'm showing up. Okay. I'm there.
All right.
That's my response. Thank you.
Any questions regarding that, the meeting that day? Excellent. All right, reports. So Cindy covered, I'm just gonna pull a couple things out of hers, the budget stuff already. The other, Cindy, I have on here is the fine increases that you had to actually testify. So, do you want to just mention that? That's in Cindy's report, that she testified at the House Transportation Committee about the fines. And you're monitoring that with the DMV bill, if I got that correct.
That's correct. It's a DMV miscellaneous bill. It passed through the Senate. It's now in the House. I did testify in House Transportation 2 weeks about it, or a week and a half ago about it. And they seem to understand why we were asking for those. And hopefully that will continue to go through and make it through.
And the other stuff that's in legislative is also, she gave a nice summary on that. And we really do appreciate you monitoring that because, yuck. So thank you for doing that.
I'll just tell you, I have been doing a big deep dive into the history of stuff. Like, even though I was saying stuff was going to happen in 2022 and 23 and 24, I've been going back and watching some of these players because there's a lot of them going now, like, we had no idea. I'm like, pretty sure you did. Yeah, it's
I'm
an
glad you take
exciting
care of
time,
that.
I think, in the State House for some rebalancing. And I'm hopeful.
Dustin, you have your hand up? Okay.
So I don't know if this is you, Cindy, or this is like the law enforcement committee, but in regards to fines, I know a few people. Well, I don't personally know the people, but I know that there have been quite a few people that have been pulled over and given defective equipment tickets for like $85 when they had exhaust on their sleds. And it should have been like, I believe it's like a $600+ ticket. Who do we talk to about like trying to get the LEOs to push the more expensive tickets to kind of fix this issue?
I understand your question and your concern, and it's really up to each law enforcement officer. There is a sliding scale in the state of Vermont for fines, and so that's a base. So the people that are monitoring your area would be like the Morrisville Police Department. You know Jason Lunau, right?
Oh yes, I know the local law enforcement people, and I'm not mentioning any names, but I just didn't know if it could come from somewhere up above, like, hey, we really need to kind of push this issue some more. Instead of a taillight fine, we need to give them a bigger fine for having exhaust.
Yeah, it's a great question. The Governor's Council has been talking about this for years, and we've been working towards higher fines. And that's why we're getting the ones now, or we're trying to get the ones for no TMA, no registration. But there is a huge fine for modified exhaust. I know Hardwick Police is the police department's, I think, written 3 in the last 2 years. And it's a really hefty fine. So unfortunately, it's up to the discrimination of the law enforcement officer. So if they pull someone over and there's like, let's say 3 infractions, they might be like, okay, if you get that fixed and you can prove you've got this, it's just like when you get pulled over, in your car. So I get what you're coming from, and it is frustrating. And I think we just keep talking about it and keep working on it. It's not there's no one higher up to talk about it to. It's really just us working with law enforcement to let them know that we don't think it's appropriate, like especially like, why are you giving out a warning for no TMA or no registration after, January 1st or even January 15th? Like, why are you like letting someone ride with a modified exhaust system? It's not really defective equipment. It's a modified exhaust system, which is going to just piss off landowners. So we are having those discussions, Dustin. It's just a harder nut to crack. That's all.
Mark has his hand up.
Okay, thank you.
I think also that you want to be careful in not allowing some discretion for law enforcement officers, because there are, look, I'm not an exhaust, a can guy, but the law says it has to be the OEM can, or OEM exhaust, right? What if you rusted through and you didn't have an OEM, you had something else, and it may not be that loud, but you got busted? There should be some discretion. I think that there needs to be some discretion. But I think if we trained and educated or provided some feedback to law enforcement officers, maybe they could use that discretion in a little bit better manner.
All righty. Okay. So that was Cindy's legislative stuff. And again, all the details are in her report. Mandy's report, some good advice on the signage as people are taking things off. If you got anything that you need to replace or anything that's no longer is a discontinued sign, to take some inventory there. And she also has the spring construction course. An email is going to go out to all clubs on 4/29 and 5/1, so the end of this week, with a link for instructions on the training course. So by the end of the week, your club should be receiving that link so they can start taking that training. And she also talks about the password reset and just a little summary in her report. So you want to check that out. And Mark, the chainsaw portion, the AAORG, their insurance company, is going to be doing a raffle again per participant that takes it, like last year?
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Each participant, picks the club that they're representing, and for each club member that takes the course, an entry for the club will be put in the raffle.
Successfully completes the course.
Hey, Mandy's not on here. Cindy?
No, she's not.
Do you remember the clubs that did not pick up their winning gift certificates? If you knew who they were, could we let the county directors know and say, look, there were 2 clubs that won significant gift certificates. I think one was a $750 one. They never picked them up. Mandy's reached out to them a couple times, asked if they wanted to send it to them, and they just haven't responded.
I'll take them.
I was going to say,
hey, I was going to take them too. But
or go put it back in the pool. If they don't respond by a certain time, it goes back in the pool for this year.
Right. That's what I wanted to make sure that people are aware of, that they have clubs that are leaving free money on the table.
Okay. Cindy, you'll get that list. Yeah, you're on mute, but you're talking.
I know that there are some that haven't, but I will find out. Yeah, she's still kind of out on medical leave right now, so.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on Matt's report, we already went through the CPI stuff, but also he has the list, which Mike Stewart said, take our name off. The equipment grant and aid, these are the clubs that have reached out for a possibility. So that's all in there as well. So if you have a club in your county that's interested and it's not on the list, you probably want them to reach out to Matt on that as well. And then all the committee reports are in the package as well. So thank you to all the committee chairs for responding. I appreciate that. Any questions on any of the reports? Some provide their minutes, some provide a summary. Good. All right, deadlines. On the back of the agenda is the deadlines, and there are a lot coming up. So please make sure your county clubs are aware of those deadlines as we wrap up. you're obviously this Thursday, we talked about it, the logs and the analysis. Any contract change requests, Matt needs to know, they extended it to May 11th. It was May 1st, but let him know because that has to go in front of the Trails Committee before it comes to the Board of Directors. The construction course, we just talked about it. Mandy's sending out links then. That has to be done by the 31st. I think we said earlier, plan for the unexpected. I would encourage every club to take that. Club equipment and grant aids is due June 1st. This is all parking lot apps, June 1st. Trail maintenance, grant applications, June 30th. So you have any projects? June 30th is the deadline to request grant money. And debrushing June 30th. And then the chainsaw goes to August 15th this year to be eligible for that drawing. So that's a little different than last year's date. I also put in there the annual meeting date and the location, so you have that. And in the front of the agenda on the upper right-hand box, it has a date for the summit and the next June and July meeting, and then the August meeting and the annual meeting. So it's also listed there. So you should have a pretty good summary for the remainder of this fiscal year. Are there any questions on anything that we discussed tonight? It is 7:07. I need a motion to adjourn.
Lamoille will make a motion to adjourn.
Essex second.
And that's it. Lamoille and Essex, Ruth. Thank you very much, everybody, for those
Good
that are
night,
able to.
everybody. Take care.
We'll see you next month.